Have you ever wondered about the origins of the Israel-Palestine conflict? This enduring dispute, often in the headlines, has roots that reach deep into the annals of history, specifically the late 19th and early 20th centuries. It was during this period that the Zionist movement emerged. Zionism, a nationalistic movement among Jews, was born out of the desire for a Jewish homeland in the region known as Palestine, a land they had an ancient connection to but had not been the sovereign power in for over 2,000 years. As the Zionist movement gained momentum, Jews from across Europe began to immigrate to Palestine, which at the time was a region under Ottoman rule. This influx of Jewish settlers was not without tension and conflict with the Arab population already residing in the region. Fast forward to the year 1917, during the throes of World War I. Here we come across the Balfour Declaration, a significant milestone in the genesis of the Israel-Palestine conflict. Issued by the British government, the Balfour Declaration expressed support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. This was seen as a betrayal by the Arab population, who had been promised autonomy in the region by the British. Following the end of World War I, the League of Nations granted Britain the mandate over Palestine. The British Mandate of Palestine was a complex and tumultuous period, marked by growing tensions between Jewish immigrants and the Arab population, as well as conflicting promises made by the British. As we move forward into the 1940s, the world was once again engulfed in a global conflict, World War II. The aftermath of the war and the horrors of the Holocaust intensified the call for a Jewish state. And so, as World War II ended, a new chapter in the Israel-Palestine conflict was about to begin. In 1947, a decision by the United Nations set the stage for a new conflict. The UN proposed a partition plan for Palestine, a region of historic and cultural significance, shared by Jews and Arabs alike. This partition plan, enacted in November 1947, aimed to separate the land into Jewish and Arab states, with Jerusalem under international control. The Jewish leaders accepted the plan, seeing it as a stepping stone towards a long-awaited homeland. However, the Arab leaders rejected it, viewing it as an infringement on their right to self-determination. The tension escalated, and by May 14, 1948, the State of Israel was born. David Ben-Gurion, head of the Jewish Agency, declared the establishment of a Jewish state in Eretz Israel, to be known as the State of Israel, a momentous event that marked the culmination of years of Jewish struggle for a homeland. However, the creation of Israel was not met with universal acceptance. The very next day, the newborn state was invaded by neighboring Arab countries. Egypt, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria marched in, marking the beginning of the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. This war, also known as the War of Independence by the Israelis and the Nakba, or catastrophe by the Palestinians, was a bitter struggle that lasted for nearly 10 months. The war ended in 1949 with Israel emerging victorious, but at a heavy cost. Thousands of lives were lost, and the landscape of the region was forever altered. The war resulted in an armistice with the establishment of the Green Line as the de facto borders of the State of Israel. But the war did more than redraw the map. It left a lasting legacy of displacement and division. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were made refugees, an issue that remains unresolved to this day. On the other hand, the Jewish population in Israel swelled as survivors of the Holocaust and Jews from Arab lands sought refuge in the new state. The aftermath of the war left a lasting impact on the region. This conflict, born out of a struggle for a homeland, has evolved into one of the most protracted and contentious issues in modern history. The year 1967 brought a swift and decisive conflict known as the Six-Day War. Over the course of less than a week, the face of the Middle East was dramatically altered. This conflict, despite its brevity, had a profound and lasting impact on the region. Let's set the scene. The tension was high, with Israel surrounded by Arab states that were forming military alliances and calling for its destruction. In a surprising move, Israel launched a preemptive strike against Egypt, initiating the war on the morning of June 5th. This bold move, however, proved to be a game-changer. In just 6 days, Israel managed to defeat the armies of Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. The result was a dramatic expansion of Israeli territory. The West Bank and East Jerusalem were captured from Jordan, the Sinai Peninsula and Gaza Strip from Egypt, and the Golan Heights from Syria. This was a significant shift in the regional balance of power. But victory on the battlefield did not translate into peace. Quite the contrary. The conquest of these territories brought a large Palestinian population under Israeli control, sparking a new set of problems. The war displaced hundreds of thousands of Palestinians and Syrians from their homes, creating a refugee crisis that still persists today. Moreover, the war further entrenched the divide between Israel and its Arab neighbors. The Arab states were humiliated by their rapid defeat, and their resentment fueled further conflicts. Israel's control over the captured territories has been a source of controversy and conflict ever since. The Six-Day War also had broader geopolitical implications. It caught the attention of the superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, both of whom became more deeply involved in the region's affairs. In conclusion, the Six-Day War, though brief, was a pivotal moment in Middle Eastern history. It reshaped the region's geopolitical landscape, sowed the seeds for future conflicts, and left a complex legacy that continues to shape Israel-Palestine relations. The Six-Day War left a lasting geopolitical footprint and set the stage for further conflicts. In the late 20th century, the conflict took a new turn with the Intifadas and the Oslo Accords. The late 1980s saw the rise of the First Intifada, a Palestinian uprising against Israeli occupation in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. This popular movement, characterized by strikes, boycotts, and civil disobedience, was met with a strong military response from Israel. The world watched as images of stone-throwing Palestinian youths confronting Israeli tanks became emblematic of the struggle. Less than a decade later, in the mid-1990s, the conflict escalated with the Second Intifada, also known as the Al-Aqsa Intifada. This uprising was more violent, involving suicide bombings and military operations, leading to a significant loss of life on both sides. The hope for peace seemed to be slipping away. However, in the midst of these uprisings, there was a glimmer of hope. The early 1990s witnessed the signing of the Oslo Accords. These agreements, facilitated by Norway, marked the first direct face-to-face agreement between Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO. The accords created a roadmap for peace, promising mutual recognition and the establishment of a Palestinian interim self-government. Yet the promise of the Oslo Accords was short-lived. The assassination of Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin in 1995, who was a key figure in the peace process, dealt a severe blow to the accords. Rabin's death created a leadership vacuum, and his successors struggled to maintain the momentum for peace. The impact of the Intifadas and the Oslo Accords on the peace process was profound. The uprisings highlighted the deep-seated frustrations and desires for sovereignty among Palestinians, while the accords, and their subsequent failure, underscored the complexities and challenges of achieving a lasting peace. The dawn of the 21st century brought new challenges and complexities to the conflict, an era marked by the rise of new technologies, shifting geopolitical landscapes, and evolving ideologies would further shape the course of the Israel-Palestine conflict. But that is a story for another time. The new millennium has seen a continuation of the conflict, with no clear resolution in sight. As we stepped into the 21st century, the Israel-Palestine conflict persisted, with important events shaping its course. In 2006, a significant shift occurred when Hamas, an organization labeled as a terrorist group by many international entities, won the Palestinian legislative elections. This win further complicated the situation, leading to a split between the Gaza Strip, controlled by Hamas, and the West Bank, governed by Fatah. The years following the election saw the escalation of conflict culminating in the Gaza War, or Operation Cast Lead, in late 2008 and early 2009. This three-week armed conflict resulted in significant casualties, further deepening the divide between the two factions. The conflict, however, is not isolated. It is intricately woven into the fabric of international politics and diplomacy. The roles of various nations, their diplomatic maneuvers, and their strategic alliances have greatly influenced the trajectory of this struggle. The United States, for instance, has played a significant role in mediating peace processes, albeit with varying degrees of success. In recent years, tensions have escalated once again. In 2018, the United States' decision to move its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem incited widespread protests. Similarly, the unveiling of the Trump peace plan in 2020 stirred controversy, with critics arguing it heavily favored Israel. The 21st century has also seen a shift in the way the conflict is perceived globally. Social media platforms have brought the realities of the conflict to the forefront, sparking international debates and influencing public opinion. Yet, despite these complexities, the desire for peace remains. Diplomatic efforts continue, with various nations and international bodies actively seeking a solution that respects the rights and aspirations of both the Israeli and Palestinian people. As we look to the future, the quest for peace and resolution continues.